Good afternoon. Welcome to Turnout Radio on CIUT 89.5 FM. I'm Nicole Inica Hamilton, back to open up with you about the latest on the dance scene and the heart of what moves us. It is so good, as always, to be here with you, grooving and moving in rhythms. Thank you for being here. Welcome to this dance space. Well, friends, as we enter into the space today, I want to give a shout out to all of you for tuning in to the program, and also a special shout out to the Toronto International Tap Dance Festival. I had the wonderful opportunity to attend the 4-day run of the event, and what an honor it was to be immersed in history, legacy, rhythms, community, and love. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who took part, who danced, who played, who came together in community. It was truly a blessed event in conversation, in dance, and again in rhythm. And I also want to give a shout out to Alison Toffin and Juliana Kelly for the invitation. Thank you to all. Truly a wonderful event. If you'd like to learn more about the Toronto International Tap Dance Festival, we invite you to visit topinrhythmprojects.com. Again, that's topinrhythmprojects.com. And now, as we move into today's broadcast, friends, I invite you to journey with us as we explore history and family. Because coming up on the show, Love and Legacy is in the house. Joining me today are Sue Samuels, Elka Samuels Smith, and Jason Samuels Smith. The family will be stepping behind the mic with me this afternoon to open up about their family and legacy. So stay tuned and stay locked in right here on CIUT. We're going to take a break and be right back after this. You're listening to Turnout Radio on CIUT 89.5 FM. Welcome back to Turnout Radio on CIUT 89.5 FM. I'm Nicole Inica Hamilton. My three guests today, starting with Sue Samuels, is a teacher, choreographer, and performer that has established herself as one of the staples of the performing arts community of today. Named as a legendary NYC dance teacher by Backstage Magazine, and with over 35 years of experience, her expertise is often sought after for mentoring and coaching purposes by professionals and aspiring artists from around the world. Her students have included numerous stage, film, and TV stars, including Melba Moore, Brooke Shields, and Irene Cara. Sue made history by establishing JoJo's Dance Factory together with the late JoJo Smith, which later became NYC's Broadway Dance Center. Now, in 2009, she founded Jazz Roots Dance to preserve and promote original repertoire from JoJo's Dance Factory while continuing to develop her own choreographic voice that is rooted in classic jazz. The dancer, choreographer, and educator has received countless awards for her many contributions, including the Dance Teacher Award in 2018, the Legacy Award in 2021 from Dancers Over 40, and a special proclamation from the City Council of New York in 2022. Sue previously served on the Bessie Awards Committee and continues to teach, mentor, advise, and choreograph for events around the world. Joining Sue on the show and born in Hell's Kitchen, New York, to renowned jazz dancers and studio owners JoJo Smith and Sue Samuels, Elka Samuels Smith's full immersion in the arts began early on. As the founder and executive director of Divine Rhythm Productions, Elka's passion is rooted in creating platforms to support and uplift the art of others, offering business management, creative support, and production services to professional tap dancers, choreographers, and performers. Since 2002, she also executive produced the Harlem Jazz Dance Festival, Tap at Swing 46, Mr. Wiggles Rec Session, and Hip Hop Camp, Tap Off the Turkey, Robin Dunn's Ladies Get Down, and Tap Family Reunion. She served as associate producer for the Bessie's New York Dance and Performance Awards, the 125th and 135th Capizio anniversaries, and documentary films American Tap and Uprooted. Elka consults and serves on advisory committees for the Brooklyn Dance Festival, the Perlman Center, and Broadway Theater Project, and supports nonprofit organizations including Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, Career Transitions for Dancers, Actors Fund, and Groove with Me to engage the power of art to affect social change. Joining Sue and Elka and returning to Turnout Radio, Jason Samuels Smith, award winning tap dancer, teacher, choreographer, humanitarian, historian, and anthropologist, is a multi talented leader and lifelong champion of tap dancing. His numerous accolades include an Emmy, a Dance Magazine Award, an American Choreography Award, and the Gregory Hines Humanitarian Award, one of his most cherished honors. He has also received a number of grants and residences to support his new projects. Jason was born in New York City to Sue Samuels and JoJo Smith, and so performing arts was a way of life. It was also a gift he inherited from generations of dancers, musicians, and visual artists. They include his great grandmother, Tempe Smith of Harlem Renaissance fame, and grandfather, Joseph Benjamin Smith, a Harlem tap dancer. He and his sister, Helena, were a tap act and regulars at the Apollo Theater. Additionally, the culture rich environment of his father's dance studio, JoJo's Dance Factory, later known as Broadway Dance Center, was foundational for his future. More on all three of my guests can be found at turnoutradio.com. And it is my great pleasure now to welcome the family to the house. Elka, Jason, Sue, welcome to Turnout Radio. How are you all doing?
Fantastic. Thank you so much
Yes.
for having us here, a family session.
This is beautiful, and congratulations for you too, Nicole. You've been keeping this platform going, especially through some of the roughest times the world has seen. So, kudos to you, and thank you for having us for sure.
Definitely. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you all for those kind words. I appreciate each of you so greatly. What a beautiful opportunity it is for us to be here in this space together and to love on one another today. And I want to, in that space, I want to give a shout out to Elka, who brought us all together. Thank you, Elka. Every time I have the chance to sit down with Elka, we always have these wonderfully meaningful, deep, deep conversations. And so much gratitude to you, Elka, for bringing us all together in this space this afternoon.
Naturally. And but I always enjoy our conversations thoroughly, and it's actually fun to be sharing the space too with others. So hopefully they'll get a little peek inside of our regular everyday world today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to doing so, Elka. And I've been in conversation with you and, of course, Jason, but this is the first time that I will have the opportunity to sit in a lengthy conversation with you, Sue. And so, again, welcome to all of you. Looking forward to today's chat.
Thank you, Nicole.
Well, let's groove, shall we? I'd like to open up by sharing something that you, Jason, had shared the last time we spoke. You had said the following: it's important that we shine a light on our elders. It's important that we shine a light on the people who have come before us. And it's important that we shine a light on truth. And you had also said that we must be curious. It's in that space that I'd like to revisit your family history, historical moments within each of your journeys, and shine a light on as many names as we can today. Shall we do this?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Go.
I'd like to start with Sue. Sue, take us back. Take us back to Florida, back to Broward Civic Ballet Company. And in fact, take us back even further to some of those initial beginnings and some of the spaces and moments that impacted your beginnings in movement.
I think the primary first impact I had, that dance had on me, was I was born in a time when there weren't TVs. It was radio. And so, but then my father brought in this little TV, and when they turned it on, there was a ballerina going across on her toes. I was 3 years old. I looked at that ballerina and I point to the TV and I go, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And from that young age, I just only wanted to do that. I never wavered at all. Dance is all I've ever wanted to do. I was born into this life to dance, and I'm happy to do that. But so Broward Civic Ballet was the first like official ballet training I had. Before that, my family didn't have the money to afford any lessons. Since I have 7 brothers and sisters, there was no budget for dance classes at that time. So I just would check out library books, and I would check out the books that had pictures, and I would look at the pictures and I would go, oh, first position. And I'd put my feet in first, or, oh, arabesque. And my body could do these pictures. And I never had any lessons. I just did it by picture at the beginning. And then, as time went on, I I was I went to my girlfriend's. Her mother taught dance in the basement of her of her building, of her apartment. And so we went. She invited me, you want to go to my dance class? Yeah. So I went there and I hadn't paid, so I just sat on the floor, and I must have been like wanting that so much. And so the teacher came over to me and said, do you want to dance? And I was like, yes. And so she said, well, I'll talk to your mother. So I just had to sit there that whole class, and it was kind of torturous. I wanted to get up and do it. But anyway, it all worked out. Between my mother and that teacher was the beginning of some sort of lessons. But then that teacher saw quickly that I was very, very serious. Not like it's just a dance class, this is fun. No, I wanted to train. First position. It looked like first position to me. So anyway, she took me to the Broward Civic Ballet Company, where I could get strict official ballet classes, because that teacher trained at Ballet Russe. So I got the training that she had gotten, which was very, very right on training. So I was just in heaven. I wanted to dance, go take classes 7 days a week, but there was a day off. Oh my God, I hate this day off. It's okay. But anyway, so then that's how my life got started is I had good technique training, classical ballet technique training. So that's what I had. And as I grew taller and taller, that teacher, Barbara Russell, says to me, "You're I think that you ought to move to New York. That's where you'll have a professional dance career." There was no place in Florida for a professional dance career. So I just knew the whole time I was in that ballet company that I had to move to New York. So there was no other thought. I just, as I got old enough and I could finally move away, I moved to New York. So before I got to New York, actually, I was auditioning for some shows. Nightclub shows is really all I could see. Miami Beach, each hotel had a nightclub show. So I auditioned, and then I was doing like these nightclub shows. And, then I started traveling with these nightclub shows. And while I was traveling, I met somebody who was in the company, and they said, "What you really need is some jazz training." I mean, I only was trained in ballet, so probably all my moves were looking like that and no contractions, and I didn't move my body, and I didn't know how. I didn't ever saw that in my life. So this person, Larry Vickers, we went to New York, and he said, "I know who you should study from, JoJo Smith." So he takes me to the studio. I don't know what to expect. I have no idea. We climb up this rickety long stair click case up to the next flight, and I enter, and there's a one studio, small studio, and then there's these musicians playing live. What? I never heard all of that. And I looked in the room, I looked all around JoJo's classroom, and there was everybody who was anybody. There was Irene Cara. There was Julie Newmar. There was Leland Palmer. There was all these people who were Broadway people at that time in the 60s. And there was no beginner class for people who are, "I just want to dance, I'm going to learn dance." No, you had to come with something. So at least I was coming with ballet. But that didn't help me a lot, because the vocabulary in classic jazz has a whole other vocabulary. So I really had to start learning it. And so there I was. I was a little nervous, very nervous, going into JoJo's class and being with all these professional Broadway and film people. And also some were doing TV at the time. And so like Julie Newmar, she was the original Catwoman in Batman, and she was there, and just all these people. Irene Cara, soon after that, she wrote all the music for the Fame movie, and anyway, so here I was rubbing elbows with these fantastic people, and nobody ever put me down for not being anybody and whatever. It was a very loving and very, very talented, and the music drove me, and JoJo's drumming and JoJo's clear teaching style. I'm trained in ballet, so that's a clear style. JoJo's classic jazz clear style was very so different. Ballet, the elbows are out. JoJo style, the elbows are in. And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, well, I can just learn this new vocabulary. It's clear and clean. Let me go for it. And it's a good thing I did.
Thank you, Sue. And I'm watching as Elka and Jason are nodding in agreement as you're sharing. Elka, what comes up for you as you're listening to Sue and as you reflect on some of your own personal memories of those former years?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure my mom was dancing through the entire pregnancy with me. And so I was already exposed to movement and the music that was already happening, before I entered the world. And when I entered it, they already had the studio in Midtown Manhattan, the JoJo's Dance Factory. I was born into the studio, basically. So I spent all the early days there, right, Mom? This is like
Every day.
that's
There
like
was no child care. You just
so
bring a child to the class. Yeah.
yeah, it didn't, there was no separation between, okay, this is home and this is school and this is work. It wasn't like that. This was like the world. This is my world. So, that was normal. It was normal to be surrounded by music and dance and people moving and a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of different kinds of energy. All of my babysitters, they were these amazing dance teachers. Aside from my parents being these like super talented dancers in their own right, here I have like, Karen Prunsick, who's like she was in the starring role of the Broadway show, the tap Broadway show, 42nd Street, babysitting me and teaching me a number, a tap number. And then I have like, a belly dancer teaching me, it's just the things we did for fun were also dance and playing music. So there was no separation between this is an activity. It was just like, this is life. This is how life goes and this is normal. So everybody dances. To me, everybody just danced and everybody played drums, or everybody, this was the world. This was the world as I knew it growing up, right? Even our family get-togethers were like this, actually, on both sides. When we got together, we would create musicals. We would, we'd play instruments. All of the parties were always like this. So, that's always, it's just a way of life. And that it was a very special thing. I don't take that for granted at all. To be born into this family, I feel like I lucked out. Let's put it that way. I lucked out. So
as you're exploring those memories, Elka, I'm envisioning those first interactions for you, person to person, rhythm to rhythm, as you met some of those first teachers and babysitters. And I want to explore even further as we think about the shoulders that each of you have stood upon and the family names that you continued to call out. Let's talk about Tempe Smith and Joseph Smith, Anna Grayson, and your Aunt Helena, Brother Jason. Tell us about those names and more that you and your sister and your mother continue to share with the world as you honor legacy and history.
With all due respect to our grandfather, Aunt Helena was supposed to be the one. So, she got more billing than our grandfather did. She was working more than he was as a soloist. And then, he did, not to take anything away from his solo career, because he did his thing too, but they worked well as a team. But when she was also solo, she was working with Ella Fitzgerald and Chick Webb and, multiple circuits in Harlem at that time. So let me go back though, because you mentioned Tempe, right? And I mean, if you're talking about our great great grandmother Tempe, who came up from Mississippi and brought, the rest of our grandfather and his great siblings up from Mississippi to New York. I mean, she was doing this in a time, I mean, unthinkable in America, what was going on. But for a Black woman who is the head of a household with, I guess it was 5 or 6 kids, moving from Mississippi to New York, that was tough alone. But she was very successful, and all of her kids really had either some career in music or just a thriving life. So just thinking about Tempe, right, and saying her name, because actually that's a name that appears multiple times in our family. There's a lot of family members named Tempe. Uh, we got an uncle named Brother. We got Uncle Brother over here. We got uh, we got a lot of juniors because we got a lot of people named Robert in our family. So we might have an Uncle Junior, you know what I mean, as opposed to Uncle Robert. But just Tempe, having the courage at the time that she did, and I would say we're talking about before the Harlem Renaissance. So she moved up probably in the late 1800s, early 1900s to New York and made this move before it was really even popping. up there, and our family, you know, was there. I just look at a lot of the moments in time.
If you look at my
People,
Facebook page, the picture that's the main picture on my page is actually a picture of Tempe and all the kids, and they're
Yeah.
all playing. They're all on instruments. They're all on instruments. Everybody had to play an instrument.
another great auntie, as a part of that, those siblings became a band leader, orchestra leader, who became one of the first women to lead an orchestra at Carnegie Hall. And she was doing some very different things at the time. She was supposedly like at the top of the boogie woogie, at the top of that level, and so she was bringing boogie woogie to a classical symphony. And it, once again, in a time that was, people didn't really get it, right? So, but I just think it's interesting that if you really look back in every direction, including, you know, on my mom's side, and she talks about her mom dancing as well at a certain point. Because I remember our grandmother talking about her dancing, and she was like, "Oh, you get the tent for me." I'm like, "Do I, Nana?" but but I mean, the fact is, you can look at a lot of different parts of our family tree and find music. You can find drama, just actors. You can find musicians. You can find educators. You know, people that are just deeper into. They dive deeper into whatever it is, and I don't know. It's kind of strange. We've almost been there at every turn of every important moment when something is happening in the cultural timeline of America. Our family kind of shows up, and we're there.
Vivian Ayers Allen was a hidden figure. Just found out.
There's a lot of fascinating things about our family that we're learning. Um, and I'll just share this, just because I just went to our family reunion on Anna Grayson's side of the family. And, you know, obviously just connecting, I was meeting a lot of family for the first time, but, you know, something I was interested in asking was like, were we ever enslaved in South Carolina? And the answer is no, which is very interesting, right? And so just that little bit of information, hearing that from family, and then also doing my own genealogy, looking through that side, I mean, it's a very interesting thing, because the way that we hear history in the context of like, oh, this was happening like this, and this is how it was. I don't know. My research and my experience says otherwise. Things are not black and white as they've been spread out for us to easily digest. And so when you do come up with some, you know, oh, there was a pothole in the road. Of course there were. They don't fix the potholes on the road over here now. So are there things that they've kind of switched around to make feel more convenient throughout time so that we all feel better as a general group of people? Sure. Well, it doesn't benefit the truth, because at the end of the day, if you're somebody like me, I don't care what the truth is. If it's exactly opposite of what I thought it was, I want to know. I don't want to be held from it. I don't want to be lied to, manipulated around, and sold some dream that doesn't actually exist. I want to know what is really happening here. So now when I'm preparing myself and my kids for the future, I can tell them honestly, this is what's going on. This is what's happening around you, even though this is not our reality in our space every day, because we live differently than how the world does. This is how the rest of the world's living. So that's why the truth for me about talking about ancestors, mentioning, you know, family members' names, but just bringing up things in the past that are uncomfortable. We'll never move forward if we don't really hash things out. Because the way that at least things are in America is like, right? You get to that space and it's okay. But then everything's about to explode, and now it does. And now we're back to riots and protests and la la la. Like, why didn't we just talk about this? We could have been hashing this out from the beginning. And now we're punching each other in the face. Like, it doesn't have to go to that point if we can at least begin the conversation, right? And the conversations are tough when we're talking about what really happened. So our family, interestingly, like I said, we've been there at every turn. And you know, you can almost look through our family timeline on both sides, and it's kind of the timeline of America.
We need people like you who are going to bring the truth to surface. So at least let the truth be known. And we have to go forward from that truth, but we have to know the truth.
Everybody doesn't want it though. So that's the thing, is like sometimes the truth hurts people's reality now because they're living off of the lie. So then they don't benefit from the truth. And I get that. Because I've even gotten more, some of the most resistance has come from people that I thought would benefit from the truth. And they've said, whoa, 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 be careful. Be careful of what? I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. Like, is the truth a threat? And to who?
Just got to talk, my son. Just got to say the truth. And you can't unhear something. Guess what? You can't unhear it. So just speak.
Facts.
And the people who can take it or whatever, there's always going to be those. But then hopefully the light will shine on more people than not. Because we need to know the truth so we can move forward with the truth.
So share with us, please, about JoJo Smith's movement vocabulary, and also talk to us about the origins of JoJo's Dance Factory.
When JoJo was born, his mother and his aunt were dancing in the Catherine Dunham Company. So Anna Grayson put JoJo down in that environment. Catherine Dunham drumming. There was a bar warm-up. Catherine Dunham developed a bar warm-up. And so JoJo grew up seeing that as dance. Then as an adult, he became very interested in the martial arts and became a black belt in the 6th degree of the Goju style of karate. So he was all those arms that came from the hip and punch out karate style. Then he began to develop his jazz style, and his arms came from the hip and came out from the hip. So the other jazz styles, every other one that was a leading jazz, classic jazz style at that time, came through the European ballet background. So their arms were rounded and their arms were soft and their arms didn't come through from the hip elbows in. Their arms were always elbows out. Like so, but anyway, JoJo's style came through Catherine Dunham, which he continued to use the jazz bar warm up, which other styles maybe had some bar warm up. They did, but soon they dropped their bar warm up and did center floor warm up. But we never dropped that. We still do the jazz bar, that which is influenced by the Catherine Dunham bar today. So that's still what I teach, the jazz bar warm up and JoJo style. Well, JoJo wanted to have his own studio, not just rent a small little space over there midtown. So he looked around and we looked together and we saw way, way over by the river, JoJo and I found a huge loft, a beautiful loft space, which had a wooden floor already down. So it seemed perfect at the time. And so we decided to move the business or begin JoJo's. Well, then we are in a factory building. Each floor was a different factory. There was a window shade factory, and there was some kind of textile where they printed fabric. Each floor had its factory. And JoJo said, "Oh, well, then I guess this is JoJo's dance factory." And it was like, yeah, that works. Let's do that. So it was JoJo's Dance Factory was born. Well, people wanted to study with JoJo. So anyway, that's how JoJo's Dance Factory was born. And after some years of having it out there, we decided to move more over there on Broadway, like Midtown. So we looked around and saw, it developed. There was one place we had for 1 year, then it was demolished. So then we had to watch them throwing the wood out the window, the wood that we bought to lay on the floor. It was expensive. But while we were in that space, a landlord from another building his building was empty. He must have known the landlord stuff that was going on, and he must have known that building was going to come down. So he approached JoJo and I and said, I'd really love to have a dance studio in my building right here on the next street. Oh, it's still on Broadway. It's just instead of at the corner of 50, it was across the street on 55th and Broadway, 1733 Broadway. So we went to go look at it, and that landlord was very, very sweet, very, very kind. And JoJo, we told the story. We just spent all our money on the what they tore out of that room. So he allowed us time. He had some concession so that we didn't have to pay the rent at the time yet until we got ourselves up on our feet. So we had to buy more wood. We had to find money to do this and whatever. But little by little, even though it was a wood floor, that wood floor was not in good condition. It's splintery, old wood. So we had to lay a wood floor on top of that. And then we even opened, because JoJo wanted to be all natural and we wanted to be all natural. So it was kind of the beginning also of the nutritional trend of dancers watching out what they ate. Oh, we want good nutrition. So we opened a juice bar, Jo Sue's Juice Bar. And my sister actually worked in there, Judy Samuels. She was the chef in there. She'd make soups, all natural. She'd make magic muffins. They were just made of, there was no egg in there. No, she had magic recipes that were all natural, all, whatever. So all the dancers, when they finished eating, they could come and get a snack, or even before class. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to eat. They just grabbed something. It was very successful. And dancers learned how to take care of their bodies better, because before that, it was all this processed food, which it still exists today, but it was only processed food then, no choices. So it began that trend.
Shout out to Aunt Judy, because straight up, Aunt Judy is one of the ones that, she don't get enough props. That's my mom's sister. She was an excellent chef, and she specialized in bakery, and she was in New York, as a chef while we were growing up. She used to take care of Elka and I, babysit us the different times. So shout out to Aunt Judy. But the other thing I wanted to add was the idea of all these styles under one roof, because you got to talk about that too, Mom.
Yeah, I didn't talk about that. So before that happened, it was only JoJo teaching his classes, and I was teaching the beginner level, which that was a new trend also. There were no beginner classes before that, but I said to JoJo, I can break this style down and teach it to people who don't know dance very well yet. And so he allowed me to start a beginner program, and so people were starting to come in, and they loved JoJo's style. It was the funkiest jazz style of that time. So he got all the attention. All the others were all this. No, JoJo was all had his rock and pop and all that stuff going on for him. And people would seek him out to choreograph their films and their club acts and TV shows, and they seeked him out to do that. But something happened that was a magical thing that happened, that cosmically this happened without planning it. This is how life goes. It's very interesting. Here we are doing our thing, JoJo's Dance Factory, JoJo and I, but only JoJo was teaching his jazz. At that time, all the teachers had their own studios, each one separately. This one was here, that one was there. If you wanted that class, you put your dance bag on your shoulder and you walked in the street and you went there. So there were dancers walking through the streets and, going to this class and that class who were professionals in training. So little by little, something happened. The real estate in New York City changed. I don't know who was the leader at the time, but all of a sudden, all the rents in the buildings went up, and the New York state tax went up. And all of a sudden, wow, it was much higher than what we were paying. And something happened little by little. It started with Frank Hatchett, but then Phil Black, Ronnie DeMarco, Ron Daniels, all the other studios that were separate at that time, fantastic. They were well known, and now they had no place to teach. They came, it got to be known. Oh, let's go to JoJo and find out if he's got space. Little by little, one by one, and then JoJo said yes, and little did we know, but then our rent was paid. And, we were sitting good because now all this other income came to us. Not only did that happen, but JoJo's Dance Factory became known as the place to go take class, because everybody you wanted to ever study from was located there at this midtown location, right in the area where everybody was going to auditions. So it was easy to get to. They could come between their auditions. They could take class from a host of different ballet, tap, jazz teachers that were now teaching at JoJo's, not just any teachers, all the top teachers at that time. There were no unknown teachers. So they already came with their followings. And this started a huge welling up of this. JoJo's Dance Factory became the place to study.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when, we were growing up, or rather when Jason came into the picture, right? He was this like really cute kid, and I loved him as my sibling like so much, and I wanted to do like everything together. Like we did all these things together. So there was a time period when I was, really into dance, and I was like, I just wanted him to come and like dance and do the things together, right? Because we were always doing things together anyway. But he was also interested in sports, so he would go, he would come and do the dance thing, and then the next season he would go and do the sports thing, and then I'd be like, hey, what about this over here? And he'd come back and do the dance thing, and then it's kind of ironic that you didn't pull me into the sports thing. Anyway, I was excited to go see him play, and I have lots of fun stories around that I'm gonna save for later date.
She's gonna make me sound like a horrible basketball player. I'm gonna just put that out there. She's gonna make me sound like I definitely chose the right path, because she's gonna tell the worst stories about. I'll just say this: when everybody in my family or anybody that I asked to come see me play actually did, I was terrible. I don't know if I had stage fright when they came to see me play, but like I didn't play as well as I usually did, and they saw me and they were like,
when you threw the ball into the basket, but you weren't even facing the basket, you just threw it backwards.
No, you ran towards the basket and then turned around away from the basket, and then decided without even looking over your shoulder to toss it behind you as would magically just go in.
You see what I'm saying? I was better. I was better than this, Nicole. I was better than this world. I was decent, okay? But if you ask these two, I was the worst basketball player you've ever seen.
Well, he loves to play. Let's just put it.
No, I mean, listen, it was cute and it was funny, and I have to say that's actually a theme that came up when we were dancing together. And a lot of our numbers. Oh my gosh! If I could get my hands, actually, Mom probably has the VHS tapes of these pieces that we would be in together, and like a lot of the time, Jay was like the only boy or like one of 2 or 3 boys in the group, but like he was the one that stood out, his charisma and everything, and he would just like take something and go with it, and it was always like the spotlight, whoa, like you want to watch him. So I'd be dancing in these pieces, like staring at Jason, laughing through the piece, and like like I'm performing in the piece, but I'm amused at the entertainment happening on the stage, like right in front of me or right next to me. And it's just, I don't know. I think that's probably why I was like, nah, I really need to go into the business side of the dance. Somebody's got to get out the spotlight, because I don't need to be in the spotlight at all. I'm good. I'm gonna shine the light over there, and I'm gonna support it over here, because that people need to see this over here. That's what it was like, literally.
She has the talent to be in the spotlight. Let me tell you that.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks.
Oh, she's listen. Elka's still performing. Don't let her fool you. She's still performing and gigging right now.
Today you've been listening to the sounds of Cannonball Adderley with Autumn Leaves and John Coltrane with Blue Train. That was Sue Samuels, Elka Samuels Smith, and Jason Samuels Smith in the house. Aren't they beautiful? Well, I mean, hey, if you have been enjoying the conversation as much as I have, stay tuned. We've got part 2 of the chat coming soon to turnoutradio.com. If you missed the top of this hour, visit us at turnoutradio.com following this broadcast to catch it again. Thank you to all 3 for joining me on the show. Again, part 2 of the chat is coming soon to turnoutradio.com. Technical production of today's show was facilitated by the absolutely fabulous Amber Downeyback. Join us again next week for more of Turnout Radio right here on CIUT 89.5 FM. I'm Nicole Inica Hamilton. I hope your week finds you turning out to dance.